What's going on? How y'all doing this very, very fine Saturday morning? I know this was impromptu. Didn't announce anything. Hopefully people will come back and watch this a little bit later. I'm hoping and praying that you can hear me. I'm going to check the comment box to see if you can hear me loud and clear. But this is a word that God has placed in my spirit as I walk through the neighborhood this morning that I needed to share. It's more so for pastors and leaders, just anybody that's in any type of a leadership position. So if you can, if you're on, please go ahead and tag someone. Let the people know that Pastor Robertson is on live right now. He won't be on here very long because this is a good Saturday morning to relax. We had midnight prayer last night, and I think I've probably gotten 2 hours of sleep, if that. But we're up and at 'em again. So if you're on here, wherever you're chiming in from, go ahead and connect with somebody else. Let everybody know that I'm on real quick. Especially if you know other pastors. I would like to sow this seed into other pastors, not just pastors, but ministers of the gospel or people of the gospel all the way around. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds. If you can give me a minute to just allow some more people to come on, that's what we're going to do. How y'all doing? Okay, I see some of you in the comments. Good. How are you? You good? All right, all right, all right. Yep. Y'all good this morning? No, that was loud. Sorry. But listen, I don't want to prolong you since you jumped on here and you want to get this message, you want to get this word. I don't want to prolong you at all because it need to come out the right way. Um, Something happened, and you see the topic right now. It says Steward Little. And most of you seen that show, a little cartoon about this little mice. His name was Stewart with a, Stuart. But for some reason, God rested this in my spirit this morning. And he was really dealing with me and people like me and people in leadership positions and how we view what we've been given the opportunity to do. And I felt it was a little bit too powerful just for me to keep it all to myself. And I wanted to share just for a little bit this morning. I know for sure that in the book of notes, Matthew chapter 25, and there's also book of Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 through 30. Let me put that up there. And then you can go back and read it in your leisure because you know the story. Then also the book of Luke chapter 16, verse 12. Both of these books have something to do with stewardship. The one in Matthew, it's talking about the parable of the talents, of the bags of silver. How one, God gave out 5 bags, he gave out 2 bags, he gave out 1, and when the giver of the silver came back for the silver, he was paying attention to how the people that he gave it to actually did anything with it. So what God was showing me this morning as I was walking, and I watched this, he put in my spirit, my grandson, right? My grandson, I just took him back home a couple of days ago, back to Arkansas. But what he showed me, he says, if you've ever babysat before, first of all, those parents that allowed you to keep their children, they had to vet you. They had to know you. Well, a good parent, let's just put it like that, because some people will just leave their kids with anyone just so they can go out and do what they want to do. But let's say a good parent will vet the person that they're leaving their child with. They will know their history to a certain degree. They will know their reputation, because them giving their child to you or to them is a big sign of trust, right? And so what ends up happening when my grandson our grandsons come here to spend time with us, we understand that there is a certain level of trust that the parents have with us in order to release their children to us, even though we're the grandparents. And so what we do as grandparents, we will, number one, we know their diets. We know what they can and can't eat. We know their clothes size. We know if they're potty trained. We know if they're allergic to certain foods. We know if they are defensive against certain sounds, if things are too loud. We know all of these things about our grandchildren. And so therefore, once the parent drops that grandchild off, we're able to care for that grandchild, that child, period, as if it's our own child. Now, the reason why we do that is because we don't want the parents, the rightful owners of the child, to doubt that we know what we're doing when it comes to caring for their kid. Now, while that child is here, we look after that child, we feed that child, we help that child go up and down the stairs. We assist that child possibly in the bathroom when they make a mess of themselves. We assist that child with the eating of their food. If it has to be cut up in smaller pieces, we assist. If it's too hot, we'll put it in the refrigerator. We'll blow it off. We make sure that they drink plenty of water. We do all of these things. And what we don't want is for when it is time for the child to go back home, for the child to be in worse condition than what they were when they came up under our roof. Right? So what ends up happening most of the time, or sometimes, is everything goes well, everything goes great. Then all of a sudden, when it's time for the child to go back and visit and be with mom and dad, that child for some reason always falls. And we always say, don't wait till the last day before you get hurt. But what the Lord showed me in that, he says, as the pastor, the shepherd, the leader, and I'm talking to pastors and shepherds here, or leaders that I've called you to be, that I've given you the opportunity to be, the people that I have placed under your leadership, the people that I have placed under your authority from a spiritual aspect when it comes to teaching and grooming and growing. He said, those people are not your people. Those people are placed under you in order for you to make sure that they're in better condition when it's time for them to go home. The condition that they're in as a pastor is your responsibility to a degree. He said the degree is if you're feeding them and you're doing what's right and they refuse to eat, then that's not on you. But if you're only feeding them sugar, if you're only feeding them the things that you know they will eat, if you're only feeding them the things that's easy for them to take in, then you're doing a disservice to them. And they're going to come back to me, and I'm not going to recognize them as my children. And so when he began to deal with me on certain things, God began to show me the level of care and responsibility. He said, I'm not leaving my children with just anybody. He said, I'm not leaving my children with just anybody. I'm leaving my children in the arms and in the hands of someone that I have equipped, someone that I have called, and someone that I have nurtured and that has a relationship with me. That will come to me when it's time to do certain things with them, like Solomon. Solomon, when he prayed, Solomon said, Lord, you've given me so many people. I need wisdom. I need knowledge. I don't know how to lead this great people. He went back to God in order to learn how to pastor or to teach or to lead God's people. And so where God has me now is he's saying back to the basics. Back to the basics. He said, back to the basics. He said, pastoring was never meant to be popular. Pastoring was never meant to be a celebrity thing. said pastoring was meant to be dirty. Pastoring was meant to be downright offensive in some areas, especially if you're being offensive in the areas of truth. He also let me know in so many ways that everybody that sits in your congregation isn't someone that you're going to pastor. Some people are there because you're the bridge to get them where they're trying to go. You have to know my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. You cannot be in leadership and be offended by those that are just passing through. If anything, you ask God what your assignment is for that particular person. Now, when it comes to being a good steward, when it comes to being a good steward over what God has given you, it is imperative that you remember who the giver is. And I don't care if you have a church of 45, 50 people, God will not put any more on you than you're able to bear. But watch this. When the enemy sees and knows that there is some good going on from a leadership aspect, if he cannot, some of the growth that we see is not of God. Now, I'm not here to determine who's growing and who's not. That's not my part. Some of the swelling up that we see in churches, some of it is not of God. But why? Simply because sometimes if the devil, I've often said, if the devil can't beat you, he will join you. And I'm talking to some of my co-pastors, my pastors here that may not have great big churches. Honestly, understand this. God will make sure that he gives you what has been called to you and who has been called to you. Sometimes what the enemy will do is he will create such an influx to overwhelm you. And so therefore now the people are not necessarily being led. They're not necessarily being shepherded. They're not necessarily being pastored, but they're just in on a Sunday for a quick message, for a quick word, and then going back home. So this is where we have to understand our responsibility. See, I had a meeting with some of my ministers a couple of days ago, just in speaking with them, and I let them know that just like you want to know it's important who you are, it is equally as important when you realize who you're not. It is equally as important when you realize who you are not, because people will push you into an area that may be a good thing, but it's not a God thing. It may be a God thing for them, but not necessarily a God thing for you, simply because sometimes somebody else's good thing is not your God thing. And it can pull you out of position of where God has you, because you see yourself doing something different. You see yourself being better. It's one thing from a pastoral aspect that I have had to learn, is that the way I thought about it, the way I way I seen it growing up, may not necessarily be the way that I activated here in this realm for me. So I have to lean and depend on God in order to get it done. In order to be an effective minister, I have to know and go to God for each and every member that walks through that door. I don't care if you've been in church 50 years. If God leads you somewhere, trust and believe God has already equipped whoever the man of God is to lead your life at that area in the spirit realm. God has equipped that person to lead you. God has already told that person certain things about you, certain characteristics. He's already put those things in place. He will not allow his children, especially his leaders, the ones that are really trying to hear from him. He's not going to allow us to go into a situation blind. He's not going to allow us to go into a situation blind. And so from a pastoral aspect, for example, I've had people before to get upset with me because it seemed as though I was showing more attention to other people. Like there were times other people would come to my house and hang out with my wife and my kids and stuff like that. And there were people that would be like, well, why do they always get to go? You ever invite us, so forth and so on. Now, it's easy to get offended by that, but then you also have to understand the heart. Because most people just want to be involved. Most people just want to be around. Most people equate being loved with being around. But one thing that I had to explain, sweetheart, you don't need what they need. So I can't give you what you don't need. You want that, but you don't need that. These people need that. And it's not to say that they will need it forever, but in this season, they need that. See, there's a difference in wanting and needing. Some of us don't need what we want. And from a pastoral aspect, you have to be able and willing to speak that and walk that out. So therefore, you don't starve the people that need it. But then you also have to teach the people that don't need it why they don't need it, but they may need something else. And the only way you can do that is by spending time with the people. See, I'm a witness that what happened in many ministries or in many churches or in the church period is popularity and fame got in the way. From the pulpit to the pew. And no, it's not all on. Let me clear this up for anybody that may be thinking, yeah, these pastors, these members too. Because people are walking away from the truth in order to find something that fits how they feel. And the word of God clearly tells us that in the last days, I believe it's in 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy, that in the last days, people will leave the faith and find leaders for themselves because they have itching ears. They want somebody to say what they want to hear. That's where we are in this day and age. But I need to encourage those of us that are out here trying to hear God in the area of God's people. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged by the small numbers that you may see in your congregation. Don't be discouraged by the lack of views that you may have. Don't be discouraged by the lack of subscribers you may have. All of these things. See, all of these things have crept this way up in the church, and it's a measuring stick to know if you're being effective or not. And what that shows is that there is some vanity there. What that shows is that somewhere you forgot that this was not about you. This is about God. And my only responsibility as a shepherd is to shepherd the people. I believe it's in Proverbs when it says shepherds know the condition of your flock. For there will be a season when you'll need the fleece from them. But if you haven't taken care of them, so we got to think about what it is that we're doing now. From a stewardship aspect, that's wide thing. Are we stewarding good? Are we stewarding bad? Whatever God has given you, whatever God has placed in your life, whatever God says, look, I want you to have this. How are you returning it back to him? See, back to the babysitting analogy. If I'm going to babysit, I'm going to make sure I treat your child as good as, if not better than my own. I don't want your child going back with rashes. I don't want your child coming back with bumps and bruises. I don't want your child coming back with anything other than a positive experience. But even that, the child is not going to come to my house and change the rules of my house because that's the way they act when they're at home. In fact, that's why the parent may have sent, because the parent knows that in this house, there's going to be structure. See, if the child comes and they're struggling in an area of education, I may even sit down and try to read with them to teach them how to pronounce certain words. Why? Because when you pick them up, I want you to be able to look at them and say, whoa, they were not doing that well before they came in contact with you. What does that do? Is that builds a trust. And once that builds a trust, the name goes out, the area goes out to say, man, take your child there because they're going to make sure they're taken care of. It's the same principle when God sends people to you, Pastor. It's the same principle when God allows people to come into your area. God said, okay, I understand that they don't have this, and that, but what are you going to do with them while they are there? And when I come back for them, I want to know that they know how to read scripture. I want to know they've learned how to apply scripture. I want to know that they have been vulnerable around you and you didn't take advantage of them. I want to know that they may have been able to pour out and you forgave them and you just released them. I want to know that you didn't hold them back, but you pushed them forward. I want to see the condition of the child when I come back to take them somewhere else. And when God comes back to take them, it's not always saying he's coming back to take them away from this world. God could easily remove someone from your leadership because it is time for them to go somewhere else. And you've got to be ready for that. You got to be ready for that. You have to prepare people to be launched out. You have to prepare people. And this is all God is saying to us, pastors. This is all he's saying to us is, how are you stewarding what I've given you? Or are you complaining because what I've given you, in your opinion, is not enough? How are you stewarding the people that I've given you, that have heard your voice? Or are you shortchanging them because it's not enough of them, in your opinion? Comparison kills. Know who you are. Know who you're not, and be okay with that, and thrive in the area that God has called you to thrive in. I don't know who exactly this was for this morning, but I know it was for me. I know it was for me, because the enemy will have us flipping and tripping as if we are complete failures because we don't see what we see when it comes to others. It's back to the basics. It's back to the basics. People of God, you do have a responsibility as a follower. You do have a responsibility as a follower. And your responsibility as a follower is to follow. If you're under a leadership or anything like that, your responsibility is to follow that leadership, especially if you know God placed you there. Because you'll only attract other followers that are like yourself. I believe that. I truly believe that. I believe this is one of the reasons why God has us in the mirror looking at ourselves all the time, trying to manage and control ourselves, because eventually he's going to send us a bunch of us. So if I can't handle me, what am I going to do with a church full of me? That kind of makes sense. So I have to be willing to be a good steward over the life he's given me. I said, Lord, you gave me this and I brought you back that. You gave me words, I brought you back a book. You gave me words, I brought you back a movie. You gave me words and I brought you back people. You gave me words and I brought you back songs. You gave me fingers and I brought you back this. How are you stewarding what God has given you? Stop looking at the big picture and look at the picture that's right there in front of you and ask God, have I done everything possible with what you've given me? Have I done everything possible? What you've given me? Go to that book of Luke. That book of Luke, chapter 16, verse number 12. If you don't take care of another person's the right way, how then will you ever be trusted with your own? Take care. I pray y'all receive this morning. I'm getting ready to go play Madden and get beat. And probably doze off and go to sleep. But I want to open it up for comments real quick before I get off of here. What are your comments? What do you have to say? I'm going to look over here and I may pop up some of the questions on the screen here if you have a question. Where are you? Now, I want to add this, if I can. Be careful for all of you, because I know we may have content creators out here. Be careful of your harmless content. Is your content glorifying self, or is it glorifying God? See, one thing God doesn't have to do, God doesn't have to change who he is in order to reach people. Right? What he does is he is the light. He goes into dark places and he doesn't change himself. He shines. He shines. Therefore, people gravitate to him because of his content. He is. What's different about you? What's different about you? What's different? I don't see any questions. Great. Good. I'm scrolling. But hey, y'all have a good Saturday morning. God is going to be all over you today. I hope you hear my voice. You hear his voice when you get ready to step out there. How am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Is God being pleased with me? Thank you, Lord. God bless y'all. I want y'all to have a good day. All right? Be very, very good. See y'all in the morning. For those of you from One Family Fellowship, the greatest people in my life, outside of my family, of course. Y'all some good people. Crazy as y'all are. God bless.